Imagine being tasked with spreading truth and democracy around the world while refusing to uphold those very principles at home. That's the contradiction at the center of this tense congressional exchange between Representative Pramila Jayapal and Kari Lake, a nominee for the U.S. Agency for Global Media.
Ms. Jayapal from Washington for 5 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here, Ms. Lake. The U.S. Agency for Global Media is tasked with providing unbiased news worldwide to over 427 million listeners, many of whom live in countries without freedom of press or freedom of the speech. And it is your job to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy. So I wanted to start just by confirming, do you support democracy or authoritarianism?
I think that's pretty obvious. I support freedom and democracy.
Democracy. Great. Would you agree that accepting the results of a fair and free election are critical to a functioning democracy?
Would you agree that standing up and cheering for a cancer survivor would have been the nice thing to do?
Ms. Lake, this is my time.
Okay.
Would you accept that accepting the results of a free and fair election are critical to a functioning democracy? It's a yes or no question. Do you think it's essential for democracy to have a free and fair election?
We need free and fair elections.
Free and fair elections,
we don't
great.
have
Thank
them.
you so much. And yet, you have, to this day, refused to acknowledge that President Trump lost the 2020 election, something that even members of President Trump's own Justice Department have admitted and multiple lawsuits have shown. And we heard my colleague from Arizona talk about what happened in Arizona. So it concerns me that you are now tasked with this responsibility of ensuring democracy around the world when you won't even accept a free and fair election. I'm also concerned by your ability to promote the American ideals of freedom and democracy, given your record defending and praising dictators. Let's look at Hungary. You previously stated that Hungary is, quote, doing it right, and that Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban was, quote, the greatest in America, greatest in caps, and, quote, and equal to President Trump. Do you stand by those statements?
I think that Viktor Orban has done a very good job at protecting his people and protecting the Hungarian culture.
And so,
I think
Ms. Lake,
if you ask people in Europe, other parts of Europe,
the question here is very simple.
They would be wishing that their leaders stood up for their people.
Is Viktor Orban the greatest in Europe? Yes or no?
I think he's done the best job in Europe, yes.
Okay, and so even Secretary Rubio acknowledged in a 2019 letter that under Orban, Hungary took a downward democratic trajectory, and yet you insist that Hungary is doing it right. I want to cover some of the policies that Mr. Orban is responsible for. Would you consider banning LGBTQ pride parades like Viktor Orban has done in Hungary as doing it right, recognizing that pride parades are protected under the First Amendment?
What does this have to do with the U.S. Agency for Global Media?
I'm asking you whether you support the policies of dictators and authoritarians or whether you support democracy. You have said that Viktor Orban is the greatest in Europe. So do you think that Viktor Orban is doing it right when he bans pride parades?
I think Viktor Orban has put the people of his country first.
So the answer is yes, you think it's appropriate that he's banning pride parades and using facial recognition technology to actually profile people that go to those parades? How about the fact that Orban and his party control 80% of Hungary's media market?
Are we here talking about Hungary?
Yes, we are, because guess what? Your agency actually is responsible for other countries
Hungary
and
is
unbiased
an ally. Can I remind you that Hungary is an ally of America?
Oh, and so you think that it's okay that Viktor Orban, the greatest in Europe, according to you, controls 80% of Hungary's media market? Is that level free and fair reporting?
I don't. You obviously don't like our ally Hungary. I think that
I'm asking you if you think that it's appropriate. Ms. Lake, it is my time. I'm asking you if it is appropriate that a country, Viktor Orban's government, controls 80% of Hungary's media market. It's just a yes or no. Do you think that's okay? Think he's the greatest of all
I don't have
time?
an opinion on what Viktor Orban is doing in Hungary.
It's not up for
Other
debate.
than I
It's
know
a
he puts his
fact
people
that has been
first.
documented by numerous organizations.
who?
Now,
Can
not
you tell me
only
where that
have you
fact come
supported,
from?
not only
Where
have
did
you
that
supported,
fact come
excuse
from,
me, Ms. Lake,
Representative?
I'm sorry to remind you, you are not a governor. You're not even a candidate for governor. You're here, and this is my time. Not only have you supported dictators that have supported policies that erode democracy, you also spread claims promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. These claims have been proven resoundingly false, even by Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Do you still stand by that prior
Look,
statement, Ms. Lake?
I know that many members of Congress care more about
Do
funding
you
Ukraine
stand
than
by that statement,
order.
which is clearly a lie?
I know that
You are
voted.
responsible for an agency that is supposed to promote truth, and yet, over and over again, you are promoting dictators and authoritarians and lies. So I am asking you if you stand by the statement that you made that was promoted by Russian state media that the Pentagon was funding bioweapon labs in Ukraine. Proven false by Marco Rubio. Do you stand by that
I
statement?
understand you're trying to get a fundraising video here.
Okay,
So
well,
let me
you
help
clearly
make-
don't
let me
understand that
reminding
you
the
are
people-
Lady's
actually
time
here
has
before
expired.
District.
Your time
Congress. Mr.
expired, Ms.
Chairman, I
Jayapal.
just want to say
you had
that
more than enough time. I
we-
gave you a few extra
I
seconds, and
understand,
your time
and
has expired.
unfortunately,
and I now recognize Representative
Ms. Lake
Davidson.
is not responding
Can
to
I
the
have
questions.
just 1 second to respond? Because who is going to be speaking
Representative
next?
Davidson is next.
Oh, may I have just one?
Jayapal's questions cut to the heart of what it means to represent America's values abroad, and whether someone who denies election results and praises authoritarian leaders can credibly lead an agency meant to promote freedom. This wasn't just a clash of opinions, it was a test of integrity, democracy, and credibility on the global stage. Subscribe for more sharp, real-world political breakdowns like this one. At its core, this hearing exposes something deeper than political theater. It's about whether truth still matters in a democracy that's fighting to define itself. When a public figure praises leaders who suppress media freedom, censor LGBTQ voices, and consolidate power, it sends a message that runs counter to the ideals America claims to export. If you cannot defend the foundation of your own democracy, how can you champion it for others? This moment wasn't about Hungary or Ukraine, it was about the erosion of accountability at home. If we can't call out misinformation and authoritarian tendencies in our own ranks, we lose the moral authority to challenge them anywhere else. Subscribe if you believe holding power to account matters. The exchange also raises an uncomfortable question. Have American democratic values become negotiable? Leaders like Orban represent the global rise of illiberalism, populist movements cloaked in nationalism that chip away at freedom of the press and minority rights under the banner of protecting culture. When U.S. officials defend those actions, it blurs the moral line between democracy and authoritarianism. We can't claim to stand for liberty while excusing repression because it aligns with our politics. Real democracy requires defending principles, not personalities. Subscribe to stay informed as we dig deeper into the forces reshaping freedom worldwide. Ultimately, this wasn't just a 5-minute back and forth, it was a reflection of where America stands in the global conversation about truth and democracy. The credibility of the U.S. Agency for Global Media depends not only on funding and broadcasting power, but on the moral clarity of its leadership. Democracy doesn't survive on slogans, it survives on truth, transparency, and courage. And as this hearing made clear, those values are only as strong as the people chosen to defend them. Subscribe to keep following the stories that define our democracy and the people shaping its future.